Who's in charge? Me or the devil?
Oh my goodness.
It's going to be a yellow card. I can't speak.
In your life have you seen anything like that?
Are you serious, my brother?
Hold on a minute now. You've jumped over the fence, baby. We're the type to do our analysis whatever way we want.
Thank you, O'Shea, and he gave him a belt after the ball. Jerry, right!
Right, hello everyone. Paul Carroll here, ready to get the County Hurling Championship podcast season underway. Taken a few months off since Tip were beaten in the Munster Hurling Championship. Haven't had a podcast since after that, so it will take me a few minutes to probably get into it. I'll probably be talking shite before I get into my flow, but good to be back. Good to be back on the podcast. As you can see, if you're watching on YouTube, we're actually doing a video, testing out the video podcast as well. It's going to be on my YouTube channel, Paul Carroll Sport on YouTube as well. So if you're listening to the podcast, maybe you want to watch it. I'll have some stuff on the screen and things like that. It might be easier to follow on the video. So it's on the YouTube. If you're watching on YouTube, Spotify, P Carroll Sport podcast is where it's going to be. So basically, I usually only do, like last year when I first started the podcast, I was only kind of doing reviews of matches and things like that and reviewing the weekend of the games gone by. And I will be doing that. But I said this year I'd start doing previews as well, or just looking ahead. So again, this is all out of pure enjoyment, really. I'm probably going to say some teams are going to lose matches, whatever. Don't take it to heart. This is just the way I see it. I'm really looking forward to it. I'll be commentating on a few games myself this weekend. And yeah, as I said, really looking forward to it. So basically for this week's podcast, we're going to go through group by group who I think is going to get out, and just a general overview of the championship itself. And then we'll get down to actually this weekend's games, and we'll look at kind of things like the odds and stuff like that as well. So we'll see how long we go. I'm recording this on Tuesday evening, so if anything changes between now and when the matches are going on, it's nothing I can do about that. So we'll start with the senior championship. So I have the groups up here. I have the groups up on the screen here, but I think that group numbers are actually wrong, so I'll just go back to this screen here. So Group 1 of the County Senior Championship is Toom, Bursalee, Drum and Killer 1. Group 2 then, we have Moycarkey, Roscrea, Thurles and Mullinahone. Group 3, Nina Rogue, Holy Cross, Ballycahill, Lura and Lockmore. And then Group 4 is Templederry, JK Brackens, Clounty Rossmore and the champions Killadangan. So an overview of the County Senior Hurling Championship, I suppose. What do we know so far? So far this year in the North, Killadangan are the North champions, bet Toom in the final. A really good game, a close game, but Killadangan, using all their experience, got there in the end. In the Mid-Championship this year, interestingly enough, Thurles Sarsios were knocked out in the first round, beaten by Lockmore Castellini, who went on to beat Drum and then went on to beat Moycarkey Burris in the final. So Lockmore are in flying form, Eamon Kelly in with them this year as well. So such an experienced team, a very experienced management team. So they'll be very hard bet. So Killadangan in the north, Lockmore in the mid. They're the mid-north champions. The west, of course, no West Championship this year at the senior grade. So hard to know what to make of Clounty going into this year. Then down the south, Mullinahone were beaten in the south semi-final to Carrick Swan, who went on to win it. But of course, Carrick Swan are going to be in the Premier Intermediate, and we'll be talking about their game, massive game for them this week against Upper Church Drumban. That's on Friday evening. But if we look at the lay of the land in the senior, Killadangan county champions from last year, bet Thurles Sarsfields after a replay. Some unbelievable games in the championship last year, real competitive championship. Like even Killadangan themselves, like Holy Cross almost caught them on the quarter-final stage. In the semi-finals, then Toomevara, they bet Toom by I think 9 points for a finish, but Toom kept it close, and one or two moments in that game could have gone Toom's way in terms of David Sweeney made a huge block on the goal line for Killadangan, and that was the day Dara Egan came on. All the kind of memories of last year are just kind of coming back to me now, but really looking forward to this year's campaign. If we look at looking at odds and betting markets of club games is not something I really like to do, but it's kind of just it's a way of me gauging the kind of I suppose the way that maybe not the way the public have it, but the way the bookmakers have it. So Killadangan are going into this championship as 5-2 favourites, just ahead of Thurles Sarsfields. Then you have Lockmore, the third favourites, at 11-2. Nina then at 7-1. Then Killer One is an interesting one at kind of 5th place if we were to look at it based off Paddy Power. They're at 10-1. And Killer One had a poor North Championship bet by Templederry by 10 points in the first round. And in the relegation semi-finals last year in the county championship. But of course, if you go back to 2022, they were the county champions that year. So you can see why maybe that's where they are in the betting markets. But looking down at some other prices, I think Tumivara, they're 14-1. I'd give them a good chance to have a good run in this county championship. Clonalty down there at 16-1 as well. If we look down towards the bottom, then maybe the favourites for relegation based off this, we'll see Lura are 100-1 to win the county championship. Of course, Lura up from the Premier Intermediate from last year, but they've had so much momentum in the county championship so far. Like they bet, or not so far, but in the last 2 years, won the intermediate 2 years ago, won the Premier Intermediate last year. So they'll be hoping that kind of form in the county championship can continue. But Paddy Power not giving them much of a chance there at 100-1, and they've Lockmore up first on Friday evening. So I'll be going down through my predictions for each game as well. But just kind of a general overview, we've Mullinahone as second favourites for relegation, if we call it that. Templederry then down at third favourite for relegation. Rossgrey and JK Brackens at fifth kind of favourite. JK Brackens won the relegation final last year against Upper Church Drumban, so you'd maybe expect them to be around there. If we just look at the screen now, the mid-championship, how it went, Brackens actually bet Holy Cross in the first day, but then were beaten by Mycarky Burris fairly handily in the semi-final of the mid-championship. So that's kind of where they lie. My own kind of prediction, I suppose, for the senior championship as a whole, like yourself, like Killadangan are going to be thereabouts. Thurles you'd expect to be thereabouts, but Lockmore, just kind of their form of the mid-championship and just how they were winning games late on and things like that, that kind of tells me it's a team that are in really good form. And sure, we all know Noel McGrath, John McGrath, Brian McGrath, the two Conleys, Kieran Connolly, Ed Connolly getting back into it now. I think he was injured at the start of the season. Kieran McCormack seems to have taken a step forward as well for them. And then you've like all the other McGraths, Liam McGrath, Tomas McGrath, Kieran McGrath. They're littered with McGraths, but that's no bad thing for any team. But I think they should go close. Tumivara as well, really liked them last year. You'd expect them to kind of continue that good form. They'll be a bit sickened after the North final, but you'd expect them to shove on. And then, this county championship, we've seen it in Tipperary in the last couple. I keep looking at this camera, but it's this one I should be looking at. We've seen it the last couple of years in terms of a team can just get in the run. Like Killer One 2 years ago, no one, I don't think, would have predicted Killer One, and I would have liked to have gone back and seen what odds they were at the start of the county championship campaign in 2022. But that will give teams hope. Like Clonalty Rossmore, it's only 2018 since they won it, and they'll fancy it. And they're in a group that they probably feel that they can get out of as well. If I look at it there, whereas a Clonalty are in there with Templederry, JK Brackens and Killadangan. So they have Killadangan up first, the county champions, and then see where they'll go from there. But I suppose if you look at the groups, if we look at the groups and who I think will be getting out of each group, we'll start with Group 1. That's Toom, Bursalee, Drummond and Killer One. So if I was to just look at that, I would be expecting Toom and Drum to get out of that. But that's not to say Bursalee and Killer One, like, geez, someone in that group is going to be in the relegation, which is, there are 4 very good senior hurling teams in Tipperary. But just for the visual of the screen, I'll just highlight the group I'm talking about here. So Toom, Bursalee, Drum and Killer One. Yeah, Toom and Drum, I'd be expecting to probably finish first and second. But, Bursalee, like, they bet Killadangan last year, the county champions. So, Killer One, county champions from 2 years ago. So these are small margins. Like, this is just what I think, really. I'm not overly convinced either way. If we look at Group 2, then we've Mycarky Burris. Can I highlight just these ones? Mycarky Burris, Thurles. Sorry, Mycarky Burris, Rossgrey, Thurles and Mullinahone. So to look at that group, you think probably Thurles are going to top the group, and then it's any one of Mycarky Burris, Rossgrey or Mullinahone that can get through. And God, like, looking at that, Mullinahone bet Nina last year were very competitive. Rossgrey Roscrea were beaten by Lockmore in the quarterfinals last year. I think I must bring up something I should have done before the podcast, was bring up the 2023 Tipperary Senior Hurling Championship just in front of me, so I can have a quick reference of last year. So last year, scroll down. Okay, yeah, Lockmore bet by a point against, Roscrea bet by Lockmore by a point in the quarterfinals last year. So that was their first year up senior, so they'll be more kind of relaxed at the grade now, you think, this year. So that group 2 is anyone's guess. Thurles you'd expect to top the group, but Mullinahone, Roscrea, my Carrickburris, they'll all fancy it. If I was to call it, I have no preference either way. I'd only be taking a guess. So we'll take a guess at, whoever wins at my Carrickburris Roscrea game will have a huge, and that's not to discount Mullinahone against Thurles as well, but God almighty, that's a tough one to pick. Probably go with Roscrea. Just beaten by Toon by a point in the North Championship, albeit they were well down at half time. Mullinahone beaten by Carrickswan in the South, but we're missing Conor Whelan, and they're also missing Mikey O'Shea, I think, that day as well. So we'll go Thurles, Sarsfields and Roscrea for Group 2. So Group 3 then, we've Nina, Holy Cross, Lura and Lockmore Castleiney. It's not an easy group for Lura, the newcomers to the division. Ken Hogan over them. Ken is probably the most experienced man in club hurling management around the Tipperary, Offaly area. And he'll have his homework done on all these teams. And I'm not sure, are Lockmore missing Bonner for this game because he got sent off at the end of the Munster Championship? I'm not too sure. Probably should have checked that before. But looking at it, you'd say Lockmore Castleiney favourites for this group. Got to the semi-final last year. Mid-champions seem to be kicked on another level. New S&C in there as well. Paul Tracy from Toom, who was in with Boherlahan in recent years and in with Munleen as well. So he's a good kind of track record there as well. So you'd be expecting Lockmore to get out of the group. They also do have the safety net, I suppose. If they don't get out, they're the mid-champions, so they'll get a preliminary quarter-final. For Nina, Holy Cross and Lura, though, like Nina had a big win over Lura in the North Championship. So you probably fancy them to get through. But then Holy Cross, as I mentioned earlier, were so good against Killadangan last year in the knockout stages. So I'll just bring that up in front of me there as well. That was, what was the score in that game? Yeah, Killadangan 2-22, Holy Cross 3-17. So they really shoved it up to the eventual county champion. So that game on Sunday, I can't wait for it. It's a game that's going to be live on Tip FM. I'll be commentating on it 1 o'clock from the Rag on Sunday. Nina against Holy Cross. Nina, I've so much kind of faith in what's coming in Nina, in terms of, we saw in the minor championship, Billy O'Brien got that brilliant goal. Jake Donnellan Houlihan for Tipperary as well in the minor final, played so well. And then if you look at the likes of who they have at the Tip under 20s, you've Mason Cawley, you've Sam O'Farrell, who's the minor captain, who's really kind of improving year on year. And then you've the likes of Jake Morris in there as well. The more experienced players like Barry Heffernan, Paddy Murphy. You know, it's a good Nina team. They have a nice young goalkeeper in there as well. So Nina are going to be strong, and I've good faith that in the next couple of years they should be contending. Whether it's this year or not, I'm not too sure, but I would fancy them to get out of the group. But that game against Holy Cross is going to be huge. So we'll give it Lockmore Nina. But then, yeah, Holy Cross as well. Lura are a bit of a unknown at the grade. They'll be looking, I suppose, maybe I'm downplaying them, that they'll be looking to just kind of stay out of the relegation battle in their first year back up, but you just don't know. They've some unbelievable players themselves. Dara Guinan seems to be back fit, I think, at the minute, and then the likes of the McIntyres and Patrick Bonner-Maher and you know, the Hogans there as well. So probably just lean Nina, Lockmore, Castleiney, if we were to gun to my head picking there. So Group 4, then the final group, Templederry, JK Brackens, Killadangan and Clonalty. So on the face of it, you'd say Killadangan, the county champions, and Clonalty Rossmore, really strong club team in Tipperary the last few years. And you know, the likes of Robert Doyle, Stephen Ferncombe, Danny Slattery, these lads are a year older as well. And then they've the Heffernans in there as well. So like Michael Ryan Winnie as well, and Conor Hammersley. They're a very good team, Clonalty. So you'd expect Clonalty and Killadangan to go through out of that group, but then again, Brackens have so much good players as well as Templederry. Sean Ryan is absolutely flying it. I think, did he get 3-7 from playing 2 games in the North Championship? He's really flying it for Templederry. So as an overview, that's what I think would get through. And as I mentioned at the start, you're looking at Killadangan. The top 3 in the betting favourites, as I was saying, was Killadangan, Thurles and Lochmore. But I think the likes of Toon, Clonalty in there as well. I wouldn't write them off at all. So we'll go down through the games in the Senior Championship this weekend. We'll start with that game on Friday evening, 7:30, Lura against Lochmore Castellani in Nina. If you're out and about on Friday, this game is live on Tip FM. Stephen Gleeson and Tom McGrath are on commentary duty there for that game. I'm going to give my predictions, and every week we can come back and check to see how far off I was, or how spot on I got it in whatever case. So on the screen now, if you're just listening, I have the fixtures up in front of me with a column on the Google Sheets that has a prediction and results. So we'll come back and fill in the result on Sunday. Every Sunday we'll do the review podcast, and every Tuesday, Wednesday in the week of the hurling games we'll do the preview podcast. So this is the preview. So we'll check back on Sunday evening to look back on all the games like we did last year. So this first game, Lura against Lochmore Castellani, with the way the two teams went in their divisions, Lochmore seemed to be on a big roll. They've got a big boost from winning the mid-championship. Lura well beaten by Nina in their round 1 game, but had a lot of lads missing that day. So Lura have been targeting this game now for the last month and a half. So I wouldn't be surprised if Lura really shove it up to Lochmore here, but I'm going to go with Team 2 on the screen in front of me. So Lochmore Castellani, I'm going to give them the nod there for that game. Second game of the weekend is 2 o'clock in Bursalee. This is in Group 4, Templederry against JK Brackens. So as we mentioned, JK Brackens, they bet Holy Cross in the mid-championship. Loads of fine hurlers. Andrew Ormond played unreal in one of those games. His brother Jamie Ormond as well. Is it Jamie or Luke? Off the top of my head, his younger brother is starting there as well, and the two Cadells in there as well, and fine hurlers in JK Brackens. Templederry then as well, as I mentioned, Sean Ryan is on such good form. Like, I have a fancy for Templederry, but this is going to be close. This is a huge game. Who am I going to go with? I'm not convinced either way, to be honest. I could go a draw, but we'll go with Templederry. Third game of the weekend, it's the same group, Clonalty against Killadangan. Killadangan have had their number the last couple of years, and again, similarly, Clonalty have been waiting on the wings. No West Championship for them, so it's hard to kind of gauge exactly where Clonalty at. Killadangan in really good form, of course, winning the North Championship without Sean Hayes on the day. I thought Alan Flynn was going to be injured heading into that, but he played really well. Really settled team. Willie Connors there was very good in that North final. But Billy Seymour seemed to be a bit injured towards the end of that game. I haven't heard any word of who's injured, who's out, but it's hard to back against the county champions, although we've seen it before, county champions lose in the first round of the next year, but we'll go with Killadangan in that one. Next one, Tumivara against Bursalee. This is on 7:15 on Saturday evening in Dala. Bursalee, because of the nature of that North Championship loss, they were beaten by Killadangan 116 to 25 points. So it was only a 6-point defeat for a finish. I don't know why I had it in my head that was a heavier defeat. When that game was on, I would have been abroad in Vietnam, so I wouldn't have seen that one. But Bursalee, like last year, what I remember from last year, that Brendan Maher goal against Killadangan, that was just unbelievable. If I scroll up here, they finished third in their group. So they bet Killadangan and then they drew with Clonalty, was it? Am I right in saying that? Bursalee, yeah, they drew with Clonalty. That was in Semple Stadium. I think I was at that game. That was a poor enough game on the same night. And then they had that unbelievable win inside Nina against Killadangan. it's a bit hard to predict that one now, I must say. Tuam, though, given the nature of kind of Darren McCarthy's performances and how good were in that North Championship, how close they were to winning it, how well they did last year, I'll probably have to give the nod to Toomey there to beat Bursley. Then Drum against Killer One McDonagh, so Drum and Inch. If we saw Killer One really well beaten, 119 for Killer One, 226 to Templederry in the North Championship. So that was a kind of a surprise and 10-point defeat for Killer One in that North Championship. I expected just a tighter game there in that one. But likewise on the other side, Drum and Inch, they were beaten by Lockmore Castellini by a single point and kind of let that game get away from them. Drum and Inch, I'd imagine one of the Fitzpatrick young lads is probably pushing their way onto this team now and should make an impact. I'll probably lean Drum and Inch on that game, so we'll review these on Sunday evening and see how far I'm off. This one is a really tough one now. Saturday, 7:15 in Templemore. Moycarkey Burris against Ross Gray. Tough one now. Moycarkey Burris done really well in their mid-championship opener, as I've mentioned before. They bet JK Brackens. That was their first game. It was the semi-final, 23 points to 114, and then beaten by Lockmore Castellini by 9 points. But that doesn't reflect how that game went at all. I think earlier I said Ross Gray would get out of this group, but now I think Moycarkey Burris were beating Lockmore up until 10 minutes to go, and then their cornerback got a second yellow, gave away a penalty, and then they lost by 9 points after that. But as I've said before, a really good free taker in terms of Kieran Morris, and then really good goalkeeper Reece Shelley, and loads of nice young players blended in. Max Hackett kind of back into fitness. God, I think this might be the one I'm going to put down as a draw. Although these teams play each other last year, Ross Gray and Moycarkey Burris, they did, and it was a draw. So that was the first round last year. Let's go with the draw again. So that's our first draw predicted of that first round. So the game I'll be commentating on Sunday at 1 o'clock, Nina Rogue versus Holy Cross Ballycal in the Rag. I can't wait for this one. There's going to be really good matchups. I'm intrigued to see who Brian O'Mara will pick up from a Holy Cross point of view, or will he kind of pick up anyone. Nina seems to be playing with Jake Morris in at the goal line, inside the 14 nearly, and just kind of leaving him space, trying to hit him in ball. Sam O'Farrell midfield, Barry Heffernan kind of centre wing back. But Holy Cross so good last year as well. Let's see. Do I go a draw? I don't know if the individual odds are up for these games yet of a Tuesday. They're probably not. I don't think they are. But Nina against Holy Cross. I saw Nina second half against Tuam that day as well. I think I'm going to go draw. I feel like I'm backing out on some of these, but I'm going to go draw. And then the final game of the weekend in the Senior Championship is Thurles Sarsfields against Mullinahone in Cashel, Sunday evening, 7:30. So I'll probably be recording my review podcasts kind of during the second half of this game, maybe. Try and get it out by about 10 o'clock maybe here on YouTube and on Spotify as well, P. Carroll Sport Podcast. You'd have to go with Thurles, wouldn't you? Like Mullinahone had that big win over Nina last year. I'm trying to see, how did it finish up for Mullinahone last year? Because I remember that game. How else did they do? Mullinahone finished second in their group, bet Nina, and then they bet Brackens. Was it? Let's see, Mullinahone. Yeah, bet Brackens really well in that first game. Yeah, and then that was a strange group. Yeah, Drum and Inch were well beaten by Brackens on the last day and still topped the group. That kind of killed Drum and Inch's momentum. Yeah, it's going to be hard to back against Thurles Sarsfields there in that one. So we'll go Thurles Sarsfields. So that's how I see the Senior Championship going for the opening weekend. We'll give an overview of the Premier Intermediate, of course. I'm from Burgess. I'm injured myself at the minute. I probably won't be playing senior either way, but Burgess is my club, so I'll have an affiliation there for Burgess. So if I was to predict someone else other than Burgess to win the Premier Intermediate, what are we at? We're at, 16-1? There's some strange prices here as I'm looking at the odds. If you're just listening to the podcast, I'm now looking at the odds of the Premier Intermediate Championship. Upper Church Strumban, won Division 1 of the league. They won the Mid-Premier Intermediate Championship, absolutely flying it. They're 8-11 to win the Seamus Arena. Like, that is very short odds. Like, they are the favourites. They should be the favourites because, you know, they were in a county senior semi-final 2 years ago, relegated last year, and here they are now in the Seamus Arena. So they are big time favourites to bounce back up. But I just think this Seamus Arena Championship is so tight. Like, if you look at the teams and the groups, if I get the groups up, I definitely have them right here. So Group 1, Upper Church with Carrickswan, the South champions, Silvermines and Ballina. Like, that is a very difficult group. Group 2 of the Premier Intermediate, Cashel, Kincormac, Gertnahu, Aero, Gannacarty and Mine Temple Toohey. Group 3 is Thurles, Clonakilty, Newport and Borlahan. And Group 4 is Killinall, Burgess, St Mary's and Sean Tracy. So to look at it there, Upper Church, yeah, favourites, but 8-11, it's just extremely short price to win such a difficult, such competitive championship. Cashel second favourites then 11-2. Really good Cashel team this year. They were really made work for it in the West, getting over Aero Gannacarty after extra time. They're actually playing each other in the first round this year. I think it's the 5th time these two teams have met, between Crossco Cup and West Championship, and maybe they met in the league as well. So I think this is the 5th time they've met. I'll just take a sip of water here. Oh, that was needed, right? So Cashel, unbelievable players. They've Oisin O'Donoghue in this year now. If you've been watching the Tip 20s earlier in the year, like, he's going to be a big shove on for them. Owen Connolly and Ronan Connolly as well. Owen Connolly was unbelievable in that West final. Then the likes of Cathal Quinn was in with Tip earlier this year, saw game time, won Fitzgibbon with Mary I as well. So they're a really good team, Cashel. Of course, they're missing Ger Brown, huge loss for them now this year, elbow surgery as far as I know. So he's going to be a huge loss. Carrickswan then, South champions, we actually played them in the league. Was really impressed with them that day and was really impressed with them in the South final. They bet Killinall well that day. Killinall, 4th favourites as I'm looking at it here. Didn't show their best at all in that South final. Bubbles came back, John O'Dwyer, played the second half. Bubbles is Bubbles. He was just taking any score that's on, he's going to be able to take it. So he's back there for Killinall. They're 10-1, the 4th favourites. Gertnahu then after that. Then Thurles B, who are, what are we looking at? 16-1. They're 6th favourites, and they only lost the final last year in a replay. So they're at 16-1. So are Burgess, so are Gertnahu. They're all 16. Then the Mines coming in at 20-1. Aero Gannacarty at 25-1. Like, if I was looking at there, they are outside the top 8 in the betting. Like, I would give them a great chance to get out of their group, just given the performances they had in the mid, and Dara Kelly, their corner forward, as I said in previous weeks on Tipcast and things like that, I hadn't been aware, I hadn't been familiar with his game really. In that mid-final, or in that West final, he was unbelievable. 1-8 from play, really classy player, corner forward, and the game plan for Aero Gannacarty was just get the ball in front of him in space, and he's going to do a lot of damage. And he is like, you know, like Liam Cahill, keep an eye out standard. Like, that's where we're looking at him, and that's only, maybe I'm overhyping him from one performance, but he was brilliant that day. So Aero Gannacarty at 25-1, you know, their goalkeeper Darren Mooney. I talk about good goalkeepers and good free takers, and they've plenty of good players around the field. You know, Brian Fox at centre back there, still going strong. So Conor O'Brien's still at it as well. So, you know, it's such a competitive grade. Sean Tracy's are the favourites for relegation according to Paddy Power. They're 100-1 to win. Then we've Mine Temple Toohey, Borlahan, St Mary's, Newport as kind of that kind of bottom tier. So it's going to be interesting to see how that goes. But let's give our predictions for the games this weekend. So we'll go with Upper Church Strumban versus Carrickswan. Or will I do who do I think is going to get out of the groups? We'll do really quickly who I think is going to get out of the group. So Group 1 here is the Mines, Ballina, Upper Church and Carrickswan. Just based off, like, they're the mid-champions and the South champions, you'd have to go with Upper Church and Carrickswan. But I'll preface everything I say about this Seamus Arena Championship that it's so tight, so hard to predict that you couldn't say anything really with any degree of certainty. Group 2 then we have Cashel, Gertnahu, Éire Óg Anacarthy and Mine Temple Toohey. I think Cashel will get out of this group, and they do have the West Championship fallback if they don't. And then you have Gertnahu, Éire Óg Anacarthy and Mine Temple Toohey. Mine Temple Toohey were poor enough last year. I remember they played Cashel last year as well and were down. Cashel got 2 men sent off. Mine Temple Toohey got 1 lad sent off, but Cashel still won with 13 men that day, and I think that took the wind out of Mine Temple Toohey's sails. But they still have Gerard O'Connor and Conor Bowe, like 2 inter-county starters for Tipperary. So they're going to be, if they can just get the team set up to get the best out of those players, they're going to be hard bet. We'll go with Cashel, and maybe this is just too much based off that West final that I watched. But I'd give Éire Óg Anacarthy a really good chance to get out of that group. Now, Gertnahu, Glengool have been really competitive in this grade the last couple of years as well. So I wouldn't discount them. But if I was to lean one way, I would lean Cashel and Éire Óg Anacarthy in that group. Then in Group 3, we have Thurles, Borlahan, Clonakilty, Newport. It's going to be really interesting to see how Borlahan get on there. The intermediate champions last year, bet golden in the final. Good team, good young players there. Gerard Dwyer, interesting to see how he kind of develops going forward. Thurles, though, I feel like a lot of teams maybe underestimated Thurles this year. And in fairness, they put it up to Upperchurch in the mid-final, conceded 2 goals in the kind of last puck of the game to lose by, I think, 8 or 9 points for a finish, or maybe 10 points. But they were keeping relatively close to Upperchurch throughout that game until the very end. So I think Thurles should get out of that group. Newport, as has kind of been mentioned, a lot of lads not with them at the minute. You know, Sean O'Brien isn't there, Conor O'Mahony isn't there. They've a couple of injuries. Pa Ryan wasn't there earlier in the North Championship, but you'd imagine he'll be back. Conor Floyd was out as well, so interesting to see where they're going to be at. They just survived relegation last year, if you remember, against Portroe. Port had the 21-yard free last puck of the game in that relegation final, and it was blocked on the line. So Newport, I'd say Newport would just love to avoid the relegation zone this year. Clonakilty were in the League Division 1 final, managed by Dennis Kelly, the Tip Senior Camogie manager now this year. And they've been thereabouts the last couple of years as well in terms of getting out of groups and things like that. So I think Thurles will get through, but I'd probably lean Clonakilty to get that second spot. But I think that's a tough one, because any one of Newport, Clonakilty or Borlahan could get in there with Thurles, and you know, maybe 2 of those get through and Thurles don't get through. You just don't know in this Seamus O'Reen Championship. St Mary's, Sean Tracy's, Burgess and Killinall is Group 4. I'm obviously going to say Burgess are going to get through, or I'll be shot. So we'll hope that Burgess get through. We are the North Premier Intermediate champions as well, so we have that safety net. In the other teams then, like Killinall lost the semi-final last year. They'll be kicking themselves, beaten by Thurles Sarsfields as well. St Mary's are just unfortunate this year in terms of Seamus Kendi out with the knee injury, and James Morris, who was on the Tip under-20s a couple of years ago, he done his knee playing with the Tip footballers back in June. So they're big losses for St Mary's, but so much good hurlers still down in Clonmel with St Mary's, so they're going to be thereabouts. And Sean Tracy's as well, always tough team to beat. I feel like Burgess and Sean Tracy's have played each other 20 times in the last 5 years, it feels like. So they're going to be thereabouts. You probably have to give the nod to Killinall there to maybe get out of that group, and I'm obviously going to say Burgess as well. So we'll go through who I think is going to get through the actual or who's going to win this weekend's game. So first up, 7:30, Upperchurch against Carrickswan and Littleton. I can't wait to watch this game back. I won't be at it because I'll be at the Burgess game, but I'll go with Upperchurch, but it's going to be a really good game, and it's going to be really interesting to see where Carrickswan are at exactly in terms of their form that they've been on this year. But Upperchurch form has been through the roof, won the Division 1 league, won the mid-Premier Intermediate, so they'll be hoping to keep that form up. Ourselves and Killinall, I'm going to have to say Burgess, aren't I? We'll move on from that one. This one is a really interesting game. 2:00 in Nina on Saturday. Silvermines against Ballina. Silvermines I would have seen close up in the North final, and Ballina close up I would have seen in the North semi-final. I think this is going to be a really good game. It's hard to know who to go with. Like, this Silvermines team is really young. Really young players. They won the county under 21B last year, and a lot of those young lads are playing, but they're playing because they're good. Like, but you think they'll improve even more in another couple of years. The likes of Dara Tracy and these lads are still very young. Ballina, like, of course, then with the Mines, like Mikey Corkin's fitness will be something to keep an eye out on. He was hampered in that North final against Burgess. Ankle injury. It's kind of what it looked like from looking on from the side. So interesting to see if is he back to full fitness. But if Conor McKelvey can kind of continue his good form, along with, of course, Jason Ford, like, it kind of goes without saying. But for Ballina, then Stephen O'Brien is back to full fitness. He played in the North Championship. David Kelly is really pushed on to another level after being in with Tip. And then you have Michael Breen back there as well. So Ballina have been very unlucky in recent years in this Premier Intermediate Championship. Missed out on getting out of group stages on score difference in a couple of years in a row. So this is a hard one to call. Do I lean Ballina? I'm leaning Ballina in my head, but I wouldn't be surprised, like, when you have Jason Ford, and I'd be friends with a lot of the Mines lads, and I hate to just kind of be like, oh, Jason Ford, and if they don't have Jason Ford, they've nothing. That's not what I'm saying, but when you do have Jason Ford, you have a chance. You have a chance in nearly any game. So this is a really hard one for me to call. Do I go draw? In my head, I'm leaning Ballina, so I'll have to go with what my head is telling me. But again, that's going to be a close one. Saturday, 1 o'clock in the Rag, Cashel against Gartnahoe. From what I've said about Cashel's earlier, I'm going to go with them. But Gartnahoe, who did I see Gartnahoe play last year? It was in Templetooey. Who did they play that day? It was the same day that my commentary equipment broke down on Tip FM, and I didn't realise, so I was commentating on a half of a game without it actually going out on air. So it's basically what I'm doing now. I was talking to myself, but that was in public in the stand in Templetooey. So we'll go with Cashel to win that game. Then the last game on Saturday in the Premier Intermediate is Newport versus Thurles Sarsfields in Kilcommon at 7:15. I'll go with Thurles in that game. It'll be hard not to. You're looking at the team that just survived relegation against the team that were just beaten in the final last year. So you kind of have to go with Thurles there. Then on Sunday we actually have another game on Saturday. Sorry, whatever way it's laid out in front of me here. Saturday 3rd of August, is that right? Aero Gannacarthy against Mine Templetooey, Saturday 3rd of August. So that game has been pushed out. Okay, I wasn't aware of that until now. I'm just going to go onto the Tip website just to kind of confirm that. So sorry now for listeners, this isn't the best view, but I was not aware that the Aero Gannacarthy and Mine Templetooey game had been pushed out. So what group is that? That is Group 2, is it? Group 2? Fixtures. Yeah, so that game isn't actually on this weekend. So Aero Gannacarthy and Mine Templetooey is not on this weekend, so we can forget about that one for now. So we'll go on to Sunday then, 1 o'clock, Clonakilty against Borlahan Douala. Again, really interesting to see where these two teams are at. I'll go with Clonakilty. I'll give them the nod, more experience at this level, but Borlahan Douala, they'll get the bounce from coming up as teams tend to do. Coming up after promotion, so I'm not overly confident about. But then Clonakilty were so good in the leagues, but league is league. Lots of conflicting information going through my head, but we'll go with that for now. St Mary's against Sean Tracy's. I find this run really hard to call, just because I'm not aware of exactly who's fit and who's not for St Mary's. I'm leaning Sean Tracy's, but I think I'll put down a draw. For that one, because we'll surely get a draw in one of the games. And then Aero Gannacarthy, we don't have to think about that until next week. So that brings us on to the Intermediate Championship. The Intermediate Championship this year, like, there's no odds on Paddy Power, so we can't refer to that. But in my head, I have a clear favourite, and that's Moneygall. Beaten by the eventual winners in the last 2 years. They would have been bet in the semi-final by Borderland Douala last year, and that was a game now that was probably shouldn't have been played. It was absolute monsoon conditions down in Temple Tui, I think that game was as well. I'll just take a sip. Sorry for the podcast listeners, just took a sip of water there. But yeah, Moneygall beaten by Borderland last year. The year before that, beaten in the final against Lura. So they've been thereabouts. They have a really good young team. I saw them in the flesh against Port in the North final. They're really impressive that day. Like Joe Fogarty, Shawnee Kennelly have really improved their own personal games from being in with Tip, and they're going to be such a handful. But then they've such nice hurlers everywhere else on the field as well. It doesn't feel like they're kind of carrying anyone at all. The likes of Adam Hogan, Aidan Ryan were really good. Tig White, still a really young player. He's on their under-19 team. He had a brilliant game in that Nord final. Then you've the likes of Cathal Green there as well. So Moneygall are a really well-rounded team. Other kind of contenders, Kilsheelan were beaten in the South final. No Mark Keogh. I think he's out in America on a hurling out there for the summer, but you'd imagine he'll be back. You'd imagine they should go close. They were beaten by Golden last year. Mark Keogh actually got sent off in that game. So, was that a straight red? I think that was a straight red. So he'll miss like the first game of this county championship. So he's not going to be there anyway. I'm not too sure. They're playing at Skahina Rinky, but Senan Butler, we saw with the under-20s this year, has pushed on to another level. So you'd imagine Kilsheelan Golden have to give them their respect. Massive win in the West Intermediate final, bet Kappa White by 16 points, and Kappa White are no slouches whatsoever in the intermediate grade. So Golden, Jack Leamy, how good was he in the county final last year? What's he score, 14 points or something like that in the county final last year? Ben Curvin, the under-20 captain this year, will have more confidence as well this year as well. So they're going to be thereabouts. And then Portrush are the team that are coming down from the Premier Intermediate. So you would expect them to be up around the latter stages of this competition. But again, it's just the people they're missing. And I hate repeating myself, I would have said it on Tipcast as well, but they have three really, really good forwards in AJ Willis, Ruan Mulrooney and Kevin O'Halloran. And they don't have him at the minute. Kevin O'Halloran had a awful leg break playing soccer a couple of months ago, so he's not going to play a part this year. And AJ Willis and Ron Mulrooney are in New York, I believe. I think AJ Willis could be back in this county championship, so he'll be a huge boost for them. But just missing those three lads is just such a big loss. But Darren Gleeson back in goals for them. There's no drop off between him and Diarmuid Boyle. Diarmuid Boyle was injured at the start of the year, so Darren Gleeson went back into goals. He'd been playing junior the last couple of years, but he was unbelievable in that North Championship game against Bursa Kane. And also, on a side note with Darren Gleeson, interesting to see what he'll do next in terms of his managerial career. Really good tenure up in Antrim, has to be said, and interesting to see what he kind of does next, because up and down to Belfast, however many times a week he was doing it since 2018, I think it was. That is a tough ask. So I'm sure he won't miss the drives up and down. But moving on, Ballingarry, South champions. They bet Kilsheelan Kilcash in that South final, so they'll be thereabouts as well. They're kind of the main teams you'll be looking at. But I would have Moneygall as kind of a step ahead of the rest. So we'll start with the predictions for the first round of the Intermediate Championship. One game on Friday evening, 7:30, Drummond Inch against Portrush in Toomevara. We're going to go with Portrush, I think, in that one. It's Drum's second team, and I'm trying to think, how did they get on in the Intermediate Championship? They played Upper Church last Friday. So let me just try and find those results there. Sorry now. That's the mid-Premier Intermediate. I'm looking for the mid-Intermediate Championship. I believe that was... God, this Tip website is difficult to navigate at times. Mid-Premier... Do I not have the good old mid-Intermediate Hurling Championship? Maybe it's on the screen and I'm just blind and can't see it. Okay, I can't seem to find that. Mid-Premier Intermediate, no. Right, we're just going to go with Portso for that first game. Second game, Bursakane. I should have mentioned them. Sorry, Bursakane is a team that I think have a lot of promise as well. And their game with Ballingarry first up is going to be a really, really good game. So that's going to be really interesting to see how that one goes. Bursakane against Ballingarry. Bursakane beaten by Portro in the North Championship, and then Ballingarry South Champion. So you'd probably have to give a lean towards Ballingarry. You'd have to say. I think I'm going to go draw on that one. I'm going to go draw. Moneygall against Carrick Davins. I'm going to have to go with Moneygall there. I've been hyping them up. I couldn't just say they're going to lose the first round game after that. Kilsheelan against Kahina Rinky. Don't know if Mark Keogh is back yet. We'll go with Kilsheelan. They'll be disappointed after losing that South final. Golden against Kappa White. They played last week. Golden won by 16 points, so you're going to have to go with Golden. Shannon Rovers against Arvale Rovers. Shannon Rovers they were well bet by Moneygall in the North Championship. They've been kind of just teetering on the edge of the relegation the last couple of years. Arvale Rovers, Johnny Ryan back for them. Couple of lads from the under 20s. No, do they have any? No, those lads were on the minor, so they won't be playing yet. So that's a tough one now. I'd lean Arvale. Yeah, I'm going to have to lean Arvale there on that one. But good Burgess man over Shannon Rovers, so you wouldn't you'd be looking out for them as well. So Clounty Rossmore against Ballybacon Grange. This is a tough one in terms of Ballybacon are another team that are always kind of thereabouts in terms of the relegation, but always seem to do enough. Clounty Rossmore's second team, but they tend to be strong. We'll give the nod to do we go draw? We'll go draw. We'll go draw there for that one. And then finally, Sunday, 1 o'clock in Anacarty, Upper Church Strumban second team against Knockavilla, Donaghskee Kickham's. We'll give Knockavilla the nod there. Some really good young players coming through there for Knockavilla. Fergal Horgan, his son Owen in goals, and then Adam Daly from the under-20s as well. We'll give them the nod to get it done over Upper Church's second team. And yeah, that's pretty much it for this first. How long have we been going? 48 minutes, I think 46 minutes. So, my plan going forward is we'll have these preview podcasts in the week before the weekend hurling game. So Tuesday, Wednesday. I'm not committing just now to a certain day. Then every Sunday night after the County Hurling Championship games, we'll do a review like this as well. So that's kind of going forward. I'm planning to do kind of individual podcasts for the let's say the hurling is on every 2 weeks. I won't be doing these podcasts for the football for the early stages anyway. So I'm planning in those weeks to do kind of a podcast where it's me talking to someone else. I'm going to have to kind of organize some of them, but that's the plan I have in my head. But if you're listening on Spotify, have a look at the YouTube, maybe subscribe, give us a like. We'll try and get this off the ground. And let me know what you think in terms of the visuals of this video on YouTube. Anything you want to see, things we should do for the podcast, anything like that. But this is the first preview. If you're listening on Spotify, give us a good rating if you can. And if you're watching us on YouTube, subscribe to the channel. I think as I'm recording, we're only on 14 subscribers, so we'll try and get that going as well. So hope you've enjoyed. As I said, Sunday we'll be back, looking back. We'll look at how wrong I got all my predictions. But either way, I'm not too worried about the predictions. I'm just really looking forward to the start of this championship. It's like Christmas Eve nearly coming up here for Tip GA fans. Well, for myself anyway, it's a busy time of the year working in Tip FM, preparing for the games. So during the week, I'm looking back on results. I'm preparing myself for the week ahead. So you very much live the county championship when you're working around it. So I'm really looking forward to it. So yeah, that's pretty much it until Sunday. Enjoy the games. I wish all your teams the very best of luck, and we'll catch up on Sunday and see where it lies after round 1 of the Tipperary County Hurling Championships.